So I'm here at BioFuture, and I'm about to have a fireside chat with Scott and Lee on the topic of transforming how we view health. Big topic, a lot to discuss. Right now, I don't really want to talk about all the challenges we face and the solutions that we need to find. We'll dig into that much more. But for right now, I want us to imagine that we are in this future where we've solved all those problems and it's your vision come to life. And I would love for you to each of you to tell me, what you see in this future, how we as individuals go about our daily lives interacting with our data and our health in a proactive manner so that we stay well and don't fall sick, or at least put that off as much as possible. So, Lee, I'll start with you.
Well, I think the key to the future of health is a data-driven approach to analyzing the health trajectory of each individual. And that health trajectory falls into three categories. There's the wellness category, there's a disease category, and there's a transition category. And with a data-driven approach, we can optimize wellness, we can learn how to reverse transitions to disease earlier, and if you do get a disease, we can learn how to deal with it far more effectively than we have in the past. So what this leads is to something we call precision population health. Large groups of people where each one has their health individually transformed. And the nature of the transformation is we're going to change healthcare from a focus virtually only on disease to a focus on wellness and on prevention.
Right.
And in doing so, we'll save our $4 trillion bill a year, half or more of that money in the not too distant future.
Right.
But to get there requires enormous new approaches and computational techniques. And that's where Scott comes in.
Well, we're going to try. We're certainly going to try, Lee. And so you'd like me to answer the similar question?
Similar question, your vision of the future.
Yeah, so I'm learning a lot from this gentleman. He's sort of my mentor. We talk every week. And I think what we're learning is we like to focus on what's it going to feel like for you and me.
Yes.
So I imagine I'm now Lee's age, all right, and a few years in advance. I'm stopping by something like CVS. And I'm stepping in a little booth, and I give a couple drops, and I have something on my phone that says, "You're doing fine." And by the way, you probably drink a little more water than you had before. But my health is constantly maintained as easy as going and buying a latte today. And then the idea is that, let's say I'm not feeling well, and I go in, and say, "Uh-oh, looks like you're having a transition to a cancer."
Ooh.
And usually that would be a fatal, a very, very bad diagnosis. I think in the future it's like, "Oh, don't worry, just wait a few days, we'll have a personal vaccine for you." Customized to you, because we understand your genome, your transcriptome, what's happening, and we know that you're best for this kind of platform drug, and we can actually administer that to you within 72 hours.
Yeah.
That to me is an amazing future.
Yeah.
And not only that, as he said, I'd love to take the $4 trillion down to 2. That's a big challenge. Or maybe $4 trillion down to 3. That's $1 trillion more in the economy.
Absolutely.
And I think we want to make it as easy as Google search and as comfortable that way.
Yeah.
So that's where I think it's all headed. I'm just excited to be working with Lee on this. I learned so much from the man.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to help, from Google. So what can we do from the search side and everything else?
Right. Lee, you used a phrase just now that I find very interesting because it's so paradoxical. You said personalized population health, if I caught you right. I get where you're going with that, but at the same time, to take personalization and apply it on a population level is exactly what makes this such a tough job to do. So talk a little bit more about that factor, about how we scale up, and that continuum.
I think this data-driven health
Yeah.
has the opportunity to totally democratize this new vision of wellness and prevention.
Yeah.
And that means not just all the people in a given population, that means all the people in the US or all the people eventually in the world.
Yeah.
So the idea is you're not bounded in any way by the number or nature of the people you approach. You take on everyone. And with this data-driven approach, it's totally agnostic. It doesn't matter where you're coming from and where you're going. We can follow you, we can optimize wellness, we can employ prevention, and literally avoid disease in the future.
Yeah. So, we haven't spoken about the amount of data and the types of data, and, again, we'll dig into that soon. But the kind of data that Lee's talking about is enormous.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, Scott. I mean, to me, it's like several planets worth of mountains of data, not just a mountain of data. So, you're the data person.
Yep.
How do we capture, crunch, analyze? How do we get there technology-wise? Maybe just do one small part of the hurdle.
Well, I look at it as Google today, that's the warm-up pitch.
Yeah.
Think of like indexing all the world's information and making it accessible in milliseconds, right? That includes videos. You can search for a cat video, comes up magically. Search for beach photo, comes instantly. And speech recognition.
Yeah.
That's one internet. What Lee's talking about is when we think of the nanoscale, that's 100,000 slices of a millimeter. Very, very small, right? When you think about the nanoscale, each individual will have enough data for their own internet. And so now we're using the techniques that they're now tried and true, coming out with like trillion node hyperscale AI models.
Okay,
We can now use those same models
Yeah.
to understand things in the small.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a collision of these two industries coming together,
Yeah.
where that kind of data, we're going to be able to access that in milliseconds.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to figure out together, is how does that come together?
Right.
And I think the price also will drop precipitously. Well, when he first started, was it $1 billion to sequence it, or 100 million to sequence?
Well, to sequence the first human genome was more than $1 billion. And today, sequencing a genome is 10 to the 7th less expensive. It's down to the $100 range
Yes.
in some cases.
Yes.
Can you imagine that?
Yes.
So 7 orders of magnitude is just staggering. And the phenome, which is what we'll use to
Yes.
measure many of the things we're talking about, needs to undergo exactly the same kind of transition. And it will if we succeed in creating a second genome project, which we'll call the Human Phenome Initiative.
Oh, we have to do
Okay,
that. We just have
then
to.
we have to do that.
Yeah.
That's going to form the basis, isn't
Yep.
it?
Oh, it's
So
just
that's
data
key.
driven. And so
Yeah.
then, like, when I grew up, we had photos. You used to go to a Kodak place in the corner and get it
Yes.
developed, right?
Yes,
and it was,
I
it was
remember that
expensive
too.
per photo. Now my daughter just got engaged, and we took all kinds of photos
Yes.
because they're essentially free.
Yeah.
But they're much more accurate and much more. They last a long time. That's going to happen in medicine. And so a lot of the tests today are analog. They're going to petri dishes, take 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
The technology we're talking about is called nanophotonics, has these fancy names. You
Yeah.
can do this in minutes
Yeah.
now with compute, and using these things that we grew up in, like consumer internet, is now going to apply in medicine. So it's a very exciting time.
Technology seems to be there, and it might be more about the will of the people and getting society to change as a whole.
Well, I think the technology is there, but we have to optimize it.
Yes.
Yes.
See, the technology for sequencing at the beginning was there, but it was still a
Very expensive.
$1.5 billion project.
Yes.
And now we can do that genome in less than a day and for 10 to the 7th less dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Scott Lee, I'm really excited to be talking to you again soon and digging into all these details a little bit more, but it was good to catch up with you real quick and give everyone like a 30,000-foot view of what we're talking about here.
Okay, cheers.
We're going to have so much fun.
Yes,
Thank you
we
for your
are,
time.
for sure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So